Hi guys, happy Wednesday. Today we're going to read chapter 3, Sinking but Saved from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Before we start, I want to review what we read in chapter 2 yesterday. So let me switch over and make sure that you can see everything nice and clear. Sorry that that's the sunlight that has these dots on my paper. So in chapter 2 is called Find the Beast. We met a new character named Ned Land, and he is the harpoon prince, as what they refer to him as in the book. And the harpoon is a spear, like a long stick at the end, with a long stick with like a pointy part at the end that he's using to attempt to kill this monster that they've discovered in the ocean. In chapter 2, I put down some important events that happened. So they've been out on the water for 3 days, and the commander said that after 3 days, if they don't see anything, they were going to turn around. So on the third day, when they're turning around, the beast is seen. So they turn back around and they sit there and they're watching it and seeing what happens. And they fired many shots, but nothing happened. And Ned threw a harpoon and it caused Pierre to fall overboard. And that is where the chapter ended, when Pierre went overboard. So now let's start with chapter 3 and see what happened with Pierre. So here we go. Chapter 3, Sinking but Saved. The fall I took was so hard that I can't really remember what happened. At first, I sank into the water about 20 feet. I'm a good swimmer, so this didn't scare me. I came right back up to the top. But as I looked around in the darkness, I saw a black object disappearing in the east. Its lights were slowly fading. It was the ship. I was lost. Help! Help! I shouted, swimming towards the Abraham Lincoln. My clothes stuck to me and stopped me from moving around. I was sinking. I was choking. Help! This was my last cry, my mouth filled with water. I struggled to stay above the water. Suddenly, my clothes were grabbed by a strong hand, and I felt myself pulled to the surface. Then I very clearly heard these words whispered in my ear. Master, if you would lean on my shoulder, you would swim much easier. I grabbed Counsel's arm. Is that you? I asked, unsure of where I was. It is, answered Counsel, and I'm waiting for your orders. I guess we both fell into the sea. No, replied Counsel, but since you are my master, I followed you in. It was hard for me to believe that he had actually jumped in after me. But he was a true friend. And the ship, I asked him. The ship, replied Counsel. I don't think that you should count on her for help. As I jumped into the water, I heard the men at the wheel say that the screw and the rudder were broken. Say that the screw and the rudder were broken. Broken, yes, broken by the monster's teeth. It is the only damage done to the Abraham Lincoln. But she is gone now. We cannot get her attention. Then we are lost, I said to myself. Perhaps, said Counsel, but we still have several hours. We can do a lot in that amount of time. Counsel's worry-free attitude gave me a little hope, but the heaviness of my clothes around me made me think I could not get very far. Would you like me to cut them? Counsel asked. With my permission, he used a knife to cut my clothing from top to bottom. As I began to swim, they slipped off me easily. I did the same for him, and we continued to swim next to each other. But our situation was still terrible. Perhaps no one had noticed we were missing. We still felt that our best hope was to continue swimming towards the ship. It was now the middle of the night. Perhaps by daylight we would be close enough for them to see us. The tiredness seemed to hit me all at once. I could swim no more. We saw the ship. It was still about 5 miles away. We cried into the air even though we would never be heard. We listened. It may have only been a whistle in my ear, but it seemed to me a cry answered mine. Did you hear that? I murmured. Yes, yes. Council gave one more frantic call. This time there was no mistake. A human voice answered ours. Was it a voice of another person left in the middle of the ocean? Was it a boat from the ship trying to find us in the darkness? Council cried out one last time. Then he fell back into the water, exhausted. What did you see? I saw, he said, saving his breath. What had he seen? The monster? But what about the voice? I had hardly heard it. My strength was gone. My fingers were stiff. My mouth relaxed and open, letting the salt water in. The coldness took over my body. I raised my head for the last time until I sank. A hard object hit me at just that moment. I clung to it and felt as if it was being pulled up. I felt myself at the top of the water. It was then that I fainted. The quick rubbing by Council brought me back around. I half opened my eyes. Council, I murmured, what do you need? Just then, the light of the moon sank down into the horizon. In the glow of light, I saw a face that was not Council's. I knew this face right away. Ned, I cried. Were you thrown into the sea by the rocking of the ship? Yes, Professor, but I was lucky. I found an island. An island, I said. Well, I guess I should say I got my footing on the gigantic narwhal. What do you mean? I asked, very confused. I did harpoon the beast, but the weapon did not even pierce the skin. In fact, the harpoon bent. Why? Ned asked. Why, Ned? Why? I asked. Because, Professor, the beast is made out of sheet iron. Ned's words put so many thoughts in my brain. I climbed to the top of the object and kicked it. The body was hard, not like the outside of most water animals. But could it be a reptile, like a turtle or an alligator? No, this was a man-made object. It was smooth and made of steel. It was clear that we were lying on the back of some sort of boat. The boat looked like a huge steel fish. So what Pierre is describing right now is how he is on top of what they thought was the narwhal or the beast. Just then, a bubbling began at the back of the strange object. It began to move. We had only enough time to grab hold of the upper part, which stuck about 7 feet out of the water. I think I know what they're on top of. I'm picturing this in my mind. Some metal, a big metal fish with the thing on top of it. It kind of sounds like something familiar to me. As long as it keeps going straight, we will be fine, Ned said. But if it decides to dive, we are finished. That kind of gives me a clue if it's going to dive. The night was long, but daylight finally came. The fog from the morning soon left. I could actually begin to see the deck and the railing of the machine. Oh, this is definitely, I think, a submarine. Ned kicked the seal we were standing on. Open up, monster, he said. It took me only a minute to figure out my friend wanted to be let inside. The boat we were on was slowly sinking. Lucky for us, the sinking stopped. Suddenly, a noise like the banging of metal came from inside the boat. One metal square was moved, and a man appeared. He let out an odd cry and disappeared. Some minutes later, 8 strong men appeared. They waved us down inside the machine. We followed, not knowing what to expect. And that is the end of chapter 3. We will read chapter 4 tomorrow, 2 strangers. Okay, so let's talk about chapter 3. Let me just fix the settings. Okay, so that was a lot in this chapter. I thought that Pierre was done for, and Council came and jumped in after him because he said he was his master. And the Abraham Lincoln just kept going and left them behind. And who saved them? I hope you were thinking Ned, because it was definitely him. And how did Ned get to them? What did he say happened to him? He didn't jump in after him. What did he do? I hope you're thinking about it. Well, he said that he threw the harpoon at the beast, but it did not pierce its skin because it's really a metal, some kind of metal ship. And we know people are inside. It was describing a knocking back when they knocked. It has a railing. So my thinking is it must be, I think it's a submarine. But I guess we'll find out into the next chapter. So we'll find out tomorrow. See you tomorrow.